So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted that we have with us Kieran Harris, who's CEO and founder at Senior Stairlifts. So, Kieran, thanks for spending a bit of time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Senior Stairlifts, what you do, how you help people, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So Senior Stairlifts was founded on the back of me coming out of construction. I hated the industry, hated everything about it, and I was looking for something different. And I bumped into a chap who became a close friend who was a stairlift engineer. And the more I listened to him about the place that he worked and the main key players in the industry, the more I realised there was a space for a new breed of business that was forward thinking, customer centric and employee centric as well. And Senior Stairlifts was born. It started out with just me and him, and we set out with two things in mind: to be the best place to work and the best place for our customers. And with that came the name Senior. So people think instantly senior, or we mean elderly, but actually it's a bit of a play on words, because senior means of higher ilk, superiority.
Brilliant.
So that's quite a nice little one, because we do get some customers say, "Well, I'm not old," which is quite it's a nice talking piece. So yeah, we founded that in 2019. Walked obviously straight into the pandemic. We worked throughout, and the business has just gone from strength to strength, and it's just literally been on that core focus of look after customers, do what's right, and avoiding certain things that we just didn't agree with in the industry, such as sort of, forgive the terminology, but like window salesman tactics, suit and tie salesmen or salespeople, hard selling, foot in the door. We're not leaving until we've got a deposit.
Yeah.
And also the levels of aftercare. These people, we're not selling, a car to any Joe Blogs. We're selling, a lifeline. And what those people want at that point in their life is to know someone's there to look after them when they need it. So most of our competitors will do short warranties, whereas we offer much longer aftercare, and very limited T's and C's. It's very much no quibble. As long as the customer's right, we're there to support them.
Brilliant. That's great to hear, because that, for me, that's one of the keys, isn't it? Is confidence in what we do by long warranties, giving people the confidence that it's not just a single transaction, then we're off and don't care. So that's wonderful. So when you were growing up, is this sort of what you thought you'd be doing, Kieran, or did you have another thing planned?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm finding more and more with more industries actually, but with this industry in particular, people seem to accidentally fall into it, just like I did.
Yes.
I always knew in my heart as a kid I'd be in business. I always used to coin that as I'd be a millionaire. If you speak to my dad when I was 7 years old, I was telling him I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to drive Ferraris. And it was always that thing, that I don't know why, I was just born with this absolute burning desire to be successful. I can't tell you where it comes from. Maybe it comes from seeing my dad work hard and struggle. That's probably where it's come from. And it's my natural desire for comfort. Like, I like to, if I want something, I want to be able to do it and get it. And it's more around which comforts, but you don't want to, again, it points back to that struggle. But no, I didn't see myself in this industry. When I was looking for something, my next sort of venture, really, this just felt right. It just, it felt like, I'm a big believer in the universe and the way things work, and I started to believe that actually, if I can, in order to get what I want from the universe, which is, success and security for my family, then in order for me to receive that, I need to deliver a service to other people, so make a difference. So That's where when I got my opportunity to maybe make a difference and make a difference to people's lives, that maybe the universe would come around and say, well, actually, what you do is good, so here's what you need.
No, wonderful. What you do is very close to my heart. My mother wasn't a client of yours; she lives down south, but we had a stairlift fitted many years ago, and it allowed her to stay in her home till she literally had to go into a home recently, but into her 90s. So she was living in a house with an upstairs, and the stairlift allowed that longevity from a very long period of time. So I absolutely love what you do, and
Yeah, isn't it?
I mean, it's great, and to know you specifically have that care of delivering a great product and service, and the aftercare is super. I mean that does it definitely change her life. I can guarantee that. So what you do is wonderful. So I mean, as you say, you founded 2019, presumably not knowing what was to come. But what alongside COVID, what are some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome as you've grown?
Well, I was when we started out, I was working for a law firm, and I was a BDM, and I was earning really really good money.
Yeah.
More than I'd ever earned self-employed from leaving school.
Yeah.
Put it that way. And I founded this business. Again, it was more to help my friend, because at the time, not that I needed saving, but at the time I could see he hated his job.
Yeah.
But he had the golden handcuffs just as I did. We were tied to the money.
Yeah.
So I saw it as an opportunity for me to build a business, but also to help him.
Yeah.
So in the start, it was very. I built the website myself, did everything as cheap as possible. We actually borrowed a van from family, and so we got it going quite easily. Me working evenings and weekends, him working weekends, and actually walking into COVID was a massive blessing.
Right.
I actually kept this to myself a lot because, everywhere you turned, people were losing their jobs and they were struggling for money, and there were so many horror stories. And yet here I was on furlough with a pipeline of commission laid in front of me, in my garden, drinking gin and tonics, building a business and earning really good money. So I had to keep myself quiet because I thought I don't want to, look like I'm gloating to people, but I was having the time of my life, but it was very well deserved because I'd just had a business fail.
Yeah.
I'd just gone into a corporate job, which was killing me slowly, but it gave me that time to decompress.
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to then throw myself into the business when we went into furlough.
Yeah.
And we actually skyrocketed. So the business doubled overnight as soon as I entered. And I bought a van. Which was I had to scour the country for it, and Joe taught me how to fit them, service them, remove them, repair them, and within 3 months I was a fully fledged stairlift engineer.
Brilliant.
In that year of 2020, I did 85,000 miles in that van, and when the phone rang, didn't matter where it was in the country, I was there. So Joe and I was bouncing around the country, just selling, fixing stuff. And it was the perfect environment for us because the competition was laid to rest. So a lot of the big players thought, well, we'll take the government's money, we'll fill all our, and we'll kick our feet up.
Oh, wow. So okay.
What it allowed us was, because it's a very fierce market, very competitive.
Yep.
It allowed us that time to grow.
Yep.
So 2020, we've seen a huge jump in revenue from 2019, and then we've pretty much doubled in size in terms of revenue every year thereafter.
Brilliant.
So we are at 17 staff now.
Wow.
And still going, really. The challenges have been in the last couple of years no end. It's just been one hurdle after another.
Yep.
So I'm just going to pull this window up. I don't know if you can hear that.
All good.
So I don't know how to describe more, but I think most of it's come through growing pains.
Yeah.
So the term "kissing frogs."
Yes.
We are different to every other stairlift company. The way we operate is different to every other stairlift company. The way we manage our staff is different to every other company. Everything about us is different.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for us to pull people out of a very stagnated and samey industry.
Yeah.
and then drop them into our sort of organization, and it is very much sink or swim.
Yes.
People come and either absolutely love it and they thrive,
Yeah.
or they just can't handle the level of freedom almost. Some people really crave that structure around them.
Yep.
Whereas we recruit for the right person, the right personality, and say, here's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Here's a load of freedom. Do what you should be doing, and we're going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
So a lot of, the right people thrive in that environment.
Yes.
Which has been key to our growth, really.
Yeah.
The people who are here want to be here, and they want to build it, and they want to.
Brilliant.
They've been remunerated properly for it as well.
Brilliant. Wonderful.
But the biggest challenge.
Wowzers. So plenty going on. And whether it's from the challenges or other parts of the business, what are your biggest learnings about growing your business?
This time round, this is my second business now. This time round, I am much wiser with cash flow.
Yeah.
I'm much more aware of it. I think most small business owners, first-time entrepreneurs, were very guilty of sticking our head in the sand when it comes to numbers and marketing and the boring stuff.
Yeah.
And this time round, I'm very much more attracted to the boring, nitty-gritty, granular. I want to know everything inside out. And even though we've had extremely turbulent times, the last 12 to 18 months with everything going on, I've not spoke to one business owner who hasn't said they've had such a tough time recently. But I think the difference between those who survive and those who don't are the ones that are willing to take drastic action fast.
Yeah.
And be the ones that have their absolute eye on. It's this saying, that eye on the ball, or this saying people used to say to me, you need to have your hands on levers. And I'd be thinking, where are these levers and how do I find them? And I can't even describe it to anybody, but once you find them, you found them.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Just keep looking. But then you just need to get obsessed with the data in your business, really, for want of a better term. Yeah. And that's what I've kind of got, is constantly looking for things that aren't there, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then you start to spot something, and if something's not working, and I spoke to a very, very successful entrepreneur recently. I mean, ridiculously successful. Hats off to him. And I was in a chat with him, and he said to me, being an entrepreneur, being a leader, is about zooming out.
Yeah.
And then looking for an issue and then zooming right in.
Back in, yeah.
And I actually agree with him. That's what I've unknowingly been doing.
Yeah. One of the traits of entrepreneurs that's been proven is the ability to see patterns in information that other people don't see, whether that's where the market's going or what my business is doing right now. It's be able to take that information and see that what that means. And as you say, then the key thing is go and fix it, do something about it. Whether it's fix a problem or take advantage of an opportunity, it is quite a common feature of entrepreneurial people.
Yeah, and I think as well, for most small time, if you're starting out in business, or you're building a business and you're small, I think a lot of people always think, oh, I don't need an FD, or I don't need a fractional CFO, but they're now the things that when I started this business these are the things I'm going to get first.
Yeah.
And I think that's allowed us to survive so long because
Brilliant.
We've had our eye on the fine detail from day one. So if something isn't working, we spotted it quickly, and we've made drastic action in some cases.
Yeah.
Where we've built it and then we've knocked it right back down again and started again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how many businesses out there are surviving on very, very little information. In fact, I have met businesses historically that the only information they got was their end of year profit and loss accounts, and they're delivered 6 months after the year end. So literally the information they're working on was 18 months out of date. And
right.
Absolutely nuts. But it happens, and it's plenty out there, and it's not a criticism of those businesses. It's just if you don't have your finger on the pulse, if you don't know what's going to happen, if you can't see the road ahead, then you don't know you're going to hit a bend. If you don't know where you're going, and you don't know that you're going at the right speed, then the problems are probably ahead. if we're not careful.
Well, for instance, my first business set up when I was 21, and typical young lad, obviously, just thought I knew it all. It's frightening, really, when I look back, but you've got to go through this in life, haven't you?
Yeah.
My first accountant, I went to him, and long story short, we had loads of issues, and I ended up paying fines and this and that, and obviously it was all a shambles. And then we went to another accountant who was referred to me by a coach at the time, and it was a very similar story. And she was saying, "Take dividends, take dividends, take dividends." And then we got to the end of the year, and she went, "Oh, you've not made any profit, but you've paid yourself £35,000 in dividends. So we've now got you either pay £10,000–15,000 in tax, which you don't have, or you put it as a debt from the business to yourself." So I'd walked straight into being in debt to my business.
Yep.
But obviously these are inexperiences. You don't know. You go to an accountant, they're an accountant, you see them as the professional, and you ask them for the advice, and that's what they give.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously I've experienced that firsthand. I feel very lucky, and grateful that I started this journey so young, so I could walk into these mistakes very early.
Absolutely, and it just gives you so much time to be able to do that. And you know, one thing I learned from our founder Brad Triggers many years ago, and he said to me, "Chris, I'm as successful as I am," and he's a very successful guy, because of all the mistakes I've made, not despite them. And you know, but for me, I took from that, it's okay to make mistakes, and I think even further, the comfort with the ability to do stuff on the knowledge that it might go wrong is what drives success. What gets success for people is that ability to take risks, because you know, mistakes happen because we take risks. But if we don't take risks, we don't change, we don't grow, we don't get where we want to go. So it's a really interesting situation about, I think most people see successes as no failure. And I think success, primarily, somebody talked about success is just the ability to keep getting up.
Yeah, it's not how many times you get hit in the face, is it? It's how many times you get off the canvas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what business can feel like, can't it? It can feel like a relentless boxer who wants to keep giving you a left, right.
Absolutely, and we keep getting, you know, and it's just accepting that. You know, you talked about growing pains earlier. I was told by, again, the CEO of Actually Coach, a different guy to Brad, but he said a long time ago, so the job of a business owner is to solve problems. That, you know, that's our job. So if we don't like problems, probably business ownership isn't the right thing for us, if that makes sense.
You've got to relish, haven't you? You've got to relish the challenge, haven't you?
Yeah, well, what I sort of went from that, Kieran, I thought, actually, problems are often caused by growth. That's why they're called growing pains. And so if I'm not getting problems, we're probably not growing fast enough. So having a business that's perfectly running probably means it's under its capacity, and it is that ability to keep growing. Is things happen, and therefore, if I'm getting problems, hopefully, great, I must be growing. So it's almost like reverse mindset on that.
Yeah, and as well, I'm going to find the term now, actually, because I've just been working on this. But there is a Buddhist term, and I was unknowingly sort of heading down this path. So when my first business failed, I spent a lot of time just in silence, literally digesting the past 4 years of my life, working 7 days a week.
Yeah,
and been chewed up, spat out.
Yeah.
Basically, one thing that I came to realize was that the people around me were using my flaws against me. One of which was, and I've seen people running humongous businesses who are still like this, but it's called equanimity.
Okay.
And it's the ability to not allow exterior factors to knock one's core. So when there's fires around, or people bring gossip your way, or rumors, or tell you something that distresses you, or even in road rage incident, if you allow it to move you from your core of calm, then people around you, the world around you, can push you around and manipulate you into how they want you to react.
Yeah.
And obviously, staff in my first business will come along and poke the bear, if you like, and then they'd see me react in the way that they'd expect. And obviously, I realized that in the weeks after my first business, and worked on just being a more calm, more not thoughtful in terms of I'm thoughtful anyways, but more thoughtful in terms of my response. Like if someone brings some information to me, or an issue arises, or we're under a lot of pressure, whether it be financial pressures or issues with growing pains or anything, I think it's absolutely vital to completely move emotions out of business. I don't think there's any place for emotion in any form in business. I think it is purely needs to be thorough thought. And I believe that's one of the things that's helped us get to where we are now, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. I think the challenge is that because we're all human beings, emotion comes first. There's a couple of, I think Steve Peters wrote the chimp paradox about that idea that there are triggers that come straight away. But I think the phrase or the quote that is most relevant from a guy called Viktor Frankl, who wrote a brilliant book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's something like between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response.
Well, I heard that recently, actually. I don't know where.
And I think the last bit is really key, because it also then says in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So it's like
that's the second time in the last 7 days.
Yeah, and it's so relevant. In fact, I've had 2 conversations, funny enough, this morning about that from different contexts, different settings. But the key thing for me is accept that as human beings we will have an emotional response to something happening. But I don't have to turn that into a reaction. It's that space of saying, actually, okay, I'm feeling a bit crappy, angry, frustrated, whatever it is about that. But what I choose to do should be more logical, as you rightly say, should be the logical outcome to that. And sometimes it's just, that goes with the territory. It's just like that's life, and move on. But if it affects,
well, Chris, obviously everyone talks about values, don't they? What are your values? What are your values? And I think realistically, a lot of people will think, why are we doing this? It's a load of horseshit. Let's do it so we can excuse my language, we can stick it on the wall in the office and say, these are our values. But actually, realistically, once you get down to the true values of your business and your values as a leader, they're your guide then. So no matter what emotional response you have, once you've digested those thoughts and caught the emotions, thought, right, why am I feeling that way? The outcome is, right, this is what's happened. How do we respond in a way that is in line with our values? I might feel like throwing off the handle and telling them to go stick it.
Absolutely.
But actually, that'd be the wrong thing to do. It wouldn't be integral. It wouldn't be, this and that. Therefore, what would be right on these values would be to say, right, I'm sorry you feel that way. How about X, Y, Z? Actually, usually the outcomes are so much better than if you just throw off the handle.
Absolutely. There's another sort of construct, whatever the right word is, and it's termed transaction analysis. And I won't get loads because there's not enough time to go through it in detail, and I'm not well versed on it enough. But it talks about the idea that the best relationships are. It talks about adult to adult, i.e. grown up to grown up, if you like. Is that logical? We look at the situation, we understand that we might have some emotions, but we talk in this level. But many conversations, not most necessarily, but many, either party can become either a parent or a child in that conversation, and it just takes things off kilter. The parent being the sort of telling parent, naughty child, or the one that just lets the child get on with anything. And the child being either rebellious child, whatever you say, I'm going to do the opposite, or I'll do it, but I hate it, the conforming child. And everything gets out of kilter when we start to adopt this. But if we can just, as adults to adults, go, yeah, that's the situation. It's not what we wanted, but it's but we'll deal with it. Things and relationships are so much better.
That is how we've grown this business, Chris.
Brilliant.
That is, you've just described, without probably knowing, how we sort of keep staff. So when we recruit, the way me and Joe got it off so well and grew it together so well was because we were just had our big boy pants on. And if we had a disagreement, I'd say, this is what I'm thinking, and this is what I'm feeling. It might not be necessarily true.
Yeah.
And he'd say, well, this is what I think and feel. We'd discuss it together. It'd be brushed under the carpet, and then there was nothing. And when we recruit people, we're looking for people who come in and fit that. They can accept that, because we have to push our staff a lot, and not so much push them to the brink of working so hard, but push them to make sure they're following the way we want to build things.
Great.
And obviously make sure that they know what we expect of them.
Great.
And I spoke to an employee yesterday, and we pulled him in for just a regular, one-to-one, and just sort of went through his conversion rates and what he was doing good and what he was not doing so good. And I chatted to him yesterday and I said, "Oh, but you're flying, mate. You're absolutely flying. You're doing so well." And he went, "Yeah, well, I got my bollocking." And I said, "No, mate, it's not bollocking. So if we pull you in and tell you where you might be going wrong, if we didn't do that, you wouldn't have known." And that's the thing. We don't want staff to feel like they're getting told off. We just want to be able to say to someone, "This is what we need from you. This is what you're doing that we don't need." And if you've got people in your organization that you can just go and give them a tap on the shoulder and say, "Do you mind doing this instead of that?" And they go, "Yeah, no problem. I'll get on with that." Instead of going, "Oh, why is he, like you said, the disobedient child."
Yeah.
Absolutely no time for them people. My first business was full of them, and I have absolutely no time for them. It's like, here's why I want you to do this. I'm more than open to listening to why you feel you shouldn't, or if you think we could do things better or different. If you don't have anything valid, then let's just get going and do what we need to do.
Absolutely. Bang on.
And that's been a massive key to our growth.
And by maintaining that adult or getting back to adult, because again, it's okay that we go off into one or the other, that it happens, but get back to adult, then we've got a better chance of bringing the other person back to grown up, isn't it? It's like, and because it happens, we are emotional beings, so it's okay that we let emotions sometimes get the better of us, but the quicker we can get back to a less emotional, more logical state, as you rightly say, in as much as possible, the more successful everything's going to be.
Everyone's happier, everyone feels respected, everyone feels heard, and that's what I love about it. That's one thing I love about this time round is obviously we've got a good team. Everyone gets along. Everyone's got my number. People can ring me. We'll all have a good chin wag, and the job gets done. There's no to go around cracking the whip.
Brilliant. And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. In fact, I know you know a few of my colleagues, in fact, also are master licensee in. But as a business coach, I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you, Kieran?
Yeah, so my first ever business coach, I don't know if you want me to name him or not.
It's your choice. I'm absolutely delighted to.
Yeah, Rick Armstrong. He runs BNI.
Yes, I know Rick. Yeah.
Quite well known. I mean, there isn't anyone in business in Leeds, at least, that I know doesn't know. But Rick didn't. So Rick met me when I was 21. Obviously, I was very polished, first business, and I didn't know it at the time until more recent years that actually Rick really started to help mold me at that point. Not so much with in-depth business acumen, but just to help me become the person I needed to be.
Great.
And even now, there's times where I look back and I think of him and I think, wow, actually, he had more of an impact than I actually thought.
Great.
So Rick was with, and that was only a short-lived few month thing, but at the time I was very ignorant, so obviously I couldn't be told. It was, I knew that everything. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And to be honest with you, from there, I had another coach, but again, I think I was still in that space of couldn't be wrong. I still know him and personally get along with him, but I don't feel like I got much from him. But my wife, who used to come along with me, said, "Yeah, he said this, he said that, but you just weren't listening," which I hate to admit, but obviously, so
yeah,
that is what it is. We have to go through these struggles, don't we? And
absolutely. Yeah.
I've not really had. I've been looking desperately for a mentor for some time. I've just recently picked up a coach to work with me more on a spiritual level. So I'm through a bit of a journey, been locked in a house with 4 kids, of trying to make sure that I'm not presenting myself in a way that I wouldn't want to be, and that I'm at one with myself and I'm happy, and I'm, because I've realized that if I'm not in a good mood, it affects everyone around me.
Yes.
So working with her, she's great, and that's more to work with me on that level, which then has an effect on my business and my family life. I remember having a boxing coach a few years ago. When you mentioned sport, he was single-handedly the best coach I've ever had in terms of the level. When you talk sport, but I don't work with them anymore. Obviously, they were professional boxing coaches. I had no intention of being a professional boxer.
Right.
But I appreciated the level, the caliber of coach. And from there, it's always made me to seek out the best. And when I say to you, I've been looking for a mentor for some time. Sorry, I know we're going to run out of time soon, but I don't want to come across as ignorant, but I look at the credentials, and I want someone. What I want to achieve in life is so vast, and I have to question myself sometimes. Actually, is that what I want? Am I reaching too far? Do I actually want this? But when I'm speaking to people who are coaches, mentors, and so on, and to be honest with you, business coach sits outside this, because business coach has, from what I know of action coach, is that it's got the models and formulas to kind of take people from A to B to C to D.
There's a transactional part of what we do, but it's the coaching bit that I'm most interested in. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. So I won't go into that, which I won't steal your thunder.
Oh no, it's okay. Sorry. Thank you.
I've been looking for people to who can look me in the eye and say, do you know what? I've been here, got to here. I've been through the trenches. I've got the war wounds. I'm now extremely successful.
Yep.
And actually, I've just recently found someone who was introduced to me by my accountant. I don't want to say too much, because obviously it's not. I don't know if it's my place to, but he got a business that was doing $750 million in revenue and 50 million loss, and over 10 years turned it into $1 billion revenue and 150 million profit.
Brilliant.
So I dare say he's seen a few things.
Yep.
And he's just exited what I think is a very young age. And he's now looking for no gain to give back.
Great.
So I had a call with him a few weeks ago, and he's traveling now, understandably, as you would imagine.
Yep.
And we're about to have another call at the back end of the month. Now, that's not going to be the level of coaching that you might expect. It's more of he's mentoring me. And when he said to me, "What do you want from me?" I said, "What I want you to help me do is become the man I need to be at the level that I want to be." So I'm aware I have to change who I am. And that's a big thing of mine.
I think, I mean, I often describe different types of support, but mentorship's really valuable, and that's typically people that have got to where we want to get to, if that makes sense, because then they're great at helping us on that journey, especially identifying where the snakes and crocodiles are on that journey, where the challenges are. I think, coaching specifically is more probably about helping people, and it has a part of that, but is about helping people identify clear goals of what they want to achieve from their vision, and then drawing that plan of how to get there. And then primarily, and this is I think the key thing about coaching specifically, is holding people accountable to do what they said they needed to do or wanted to do to get there, because very few people achieve full potential without being held accountable by somebody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I find as well, actually, and this is something I came to realize, that I think a lot of people accidentally find themselves business owners.
Yes,
so
100%.
They get made redundant, or they have a falling out at work, and they just think, you know what, I'm going to try it on my own. Then they get into this situation where they've got a team of 5. They absolutely hate their life. They wish they'd never started. And those people probably don't get out of bed with the same level of fire that the 1% do.
Yep.
So I think they're definitely the ones that need to be held accountable more often. But even still, the ones that are absolutely fire burning quite often are usually, correct me if I'm wrong, easily distracted.
Yeah, there's lots of things, Kieran. I mean, it can just be we're great at 90% of stuff. It's this bit that I don't really enjoy that I need being held accountable to. I think I remember. I think it's true, but I was told that it was true that somebody asked Usain Bolt many years ago why he had several coaches, and he said, well, one of them just stops me eating chicken McNuggets. Yeah, and that was it. It wasn't like, because that was his weakness. He's got all the strengths in the world, but if he's overweight, he's going to struggle. So yeah, so it's not necessarily that we need help across the board. It's just sometimes there's stuff that in fact the world's most successful executive coach, a guy called Marshall Goldsmith, who I've been lucky enough to train with a few times. He himself, although he's an amazing coach, he's coached the presidents of Ford Motor Corporation, Pfizer's pharmaceutical. He every day he has somebody ring up, and it is a coaching principle, but the person isn't directly a coach. They ring him up and ask him about 8 questions to mark himself out of 10 in 8 different areas, and he literally does that. And if because he knows if he didn't have somebody calling him, he wouldn't do it himself. But they just put that down, and this end of the week they send him the information, and then he reviews it with another coach. But yeah, it's so interesting about different techniques, different styles, and different requirements at different times, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and it's right about. I think it's important to have coaches and mentors and that's what I'm looking at. I go to the gym, and I go to a gym with a PT because I know that they're going to push me. I don't have to think. I just go there. Well, I don't go to the gym at the minute with this hand, but
no.
So I'm always looking for, if I'm doing something, I want to find someone who's good at it or has proven it. And I think a lot of people probably fall short of not really realizing they need the help or unwilling to accept it, because a lot of people, and we talked about this earlier, didn't we? A lot of people are almost shying away from failure, and they might see us getting help in as a failure.
Yes.
I think a lot of people probably think they can't afford it, but actually, I don't think they can afford to not have it.
There is, in many cases, that's the challenge. Is what as simple as, if coaching is a force for change, which it should be in general. What you can do if you don't change, the where you are right now isn't necessarily where you want to be. If it isn't, and you're not changing, then something needs to happen. And that's where coaching as an option comes in. It's not the only option. But yeah, coaching. What I love about what we do specifically is as Action Coach, we've drawn most of our coaching capability from the sporting world, because people have been coached in sport for way more years than they've ever been coached in business, and because of that, I think it's really valuable to help people achieve that level of performance that we need to do. And there's a whole bunch of stuff around challenge as well as accountability.
But thing. And just touching back on something you mentioned about setting goals and outlining what that looks like. And I was reading a book called Mind Magic about from James Doty. I think it was Tony about the day.
Yes, you did.
Obviously, I'm a big believer in manifestation, and a lot of people hear manifestation and think, "Oh, pie in the sky. I'm going to sit around and meditate, and a check's going to come through my letterbox," and that's because of The Secret. But he actually talks about the neuroscience behind manifestation, and the fact that if you're sitting with your clients and you're outlining what do you physically want from your heart out of this business and out of your life, and you define the two, well, actually they're emotionally attached to, well, if my business gets to here, I can take my family on that holiday, I can buy that car my wife's been asking for, we can go and do this, we can move house. Those emotional attachments to those things that the success in the business will bring them are lodging in the back of their brain, and they're visualizing what that feels like. But then their subconscious is constantly working on the conscious to make actions and look for things it can do. It's that thing when, if I said to you now, white Vauxhall Corsa, go out, you're going to see so many white Vauxhall Corsas.
Absolutely.
How is there so many? It's because I've brought your attention to your subconscious. It's that spotting. Same thing.
Absolutely. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, we call it the reticular activator system, but it is an actual part of the brain that helps to happen. But the other thing you highlighted there, which is so crucial and is a big part of what we do, and I think it's different to what most people do, is most people plan a business based on the business. So they want to get, when somebody says to me, I want to get to 1 million or 5 or 10 or 20, whatever, I know that that has no direct connection to their lives, because if it was about what it was going to deliver for them, it will be 1.32 or 6.79 million, because that means I've worked it out. And this is a big thing we do right at the start of a program, is I've worked it out that what I really want is I want to upgrade my house to this. I want these cars. I want a property in the Alps or by a beach, whatever it would be. And this is what it takes to get there. And when you've got that connection, as you said, between, because that's the emotional stuff. People don't start businesses to make £1 million. They start a business to get a feeling, and the feeling they get from, whether it's feeling successful or demonstrating their own success by going to live somewhere differently, or whatever that emotional thing is. That's what we need to work on a regular basis, because that's what we're working towards, not a number. Numbers don't really don't really engage us unless they give us something that we know we're going to get. So yeah, I think it all comes together, Kieran, in many different ways. Yeah, there's so many different things that help people achieve the success that they choose to have.
Yeah, I think as well, that's why a lot of people are miserable when they hit success, because they've been the ones that are chasing the numbers and they're chasing the win. They get the win and they wonder why they're so unfulfilled.
Absolutely. Well, I think we may have talked about this before, but the great quote from Stephen Covey, which is, there's no point climbing the ladder of success to find you put it up against the wrong wall.
Yeah, we discussed that in the other week.
I know we did when we talked.
Yeah.
And it's nuts. And so, like, if we don't know as business owners why we're doing this, then it probably ain't going to happen, to be perfectly frank. It's like there is no engagement. If we can't, in the crappy days when we get up in the morning and we go, why the hell am I doing this? If we don't have an answer, then probably we're not going to do it.
That's why I've been working on my personal values.
Yes.
And understanding. And so when I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to do this huge business move, and it's going to, I start to question, well, is that what my heart wants, or is that what my head wants? Does my head think that'd be great because it's going to be, oh, look at us, we're operating in these countries, or this money, or whatever else? But in my heart, do I want that extra time away from my family? Do I want that extra commitment? Do I want to miss those years with my children? So what I'm trying to find now is this happy medium where I can, not I don't want to be one of those guys who says, oh, I made my millions, but I sacrificed my family.
But most people I work with, certainly the majority, which is most, the goals are around time and doing things, not about money, not about what they buy. Yes, there is plenty of that. There's plenty of houses and cars, and I've got a client that flies helicopter, a whole bunch of stuff going on. But it's that time to do that stuff, mostly and most often with their family and loved ones, that's most key when you get down to it. And so for me, and often a lot of work we do is freeing up people's time to enjoy often the money they're already making. It's like the craziest thing is making loads of money and not having any time to enjoy it. I mean, that's about the most illogical and crazy thing that people could do is, oh yeah, I've got loads of money, but I haven't got any time. Well, that's crazy, isn't it?
It's exactly right. And that's the thing. And I've only got a very small taste of that recently. And this coach I was working with, she was saying to me, you said to me more than once, you just want to be happy. So she said, we need to find, and so I sometimes you feel like you're grappling and you so desperately want the success, but A, you don't know what it looks like. B, you don't truly know what that feels like for you because you don't know what it looks like. So it's like, how can you get it? So you're putting it out there into the universe. I want this success. I want this success, but it's not delivering it because it's like, what does that look like for you?
Absolutely.
And what does it look like for you? Because you don't know. So how can I bring you what you don't know what you want?
Absolutely. We need to be specific. We really do need to get down to the nuts and bolts of really connecting with it, whatever that is. And I say a lot of it's time. I have a lot of people. I want to go travel. I want a bunch of holidays with my family. Great. Well, where? Let's go and get the brochures today. Let's go and look at the holiday we would book if we had the time and the money to book today. And all of a sudden, and let's go and watch the videos because or let's really experience it as closely as we can. to really engage, as you rightly say, emotionally. I mean, you know, the easiest one is things like a car. Oh, I always wanted this car. Great, go and get a test drive. Go and feel what that's like. And if that really still engages you, that's what we go for.
I was going to say, so obviously I don't want to say the car, but I was walking in local town where we are with my wife and kids. We were walking to the shop, and this was at a time where, you know, my business had failed. We'd lost everything. We were driving around in a £500 Kia Ceed, and we were walking with the pram. It was a hot summer's day. I remember it. And this car drove past us, and I said to her, "I'm going to have one of them. I will get one of them." And I've always wanted one. Every time I see one, my heart's sunk. It's nothing crazy, but it's something I wanted. But the last sort of, I don't know, maybe 12 months, I started to really think, you know, I want this car.
Brilliant.
And I started going into the dealerships. I started watching numerous YouTube. Every night I was watching YouTube reviews. My wife's like, "You've already watched that video."
Brilliant.
And I was visualizing what it felt like to drive it, how comfortable it was, how it made me feel. Because, you know, material success for me, really, if I've got a nice car, I'm actually quite happy, just because I spend a lot of time in it, and I like to be comfortable. I'm not really bothered what people perceive of me. I don't want to be like, "Oh, look at me in my nice car." But I love how my kids are proud of me. They're proud. They love the fact that Daddy's got a nice car, and when they get in, it's got screens. You know? So, yeah, and it happened, mate. I got the car, and to be honest with you, when I was picking it up, my wife said to me, like, "Are you all right?" And I just said, "I just can't." You know,
Brilliant.
Just soaking it in, because I couldn't believe I'd achieved it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's a great example of how when we're really clear on what we want to achieve, that and engage emotionally with it, then, you know, A, it drives us forward to get it, and B, how cool is it when we've achieved it? You know, doing those things that we said we were going to do, and you know, they're not numbers. There can be numbers. Numbers is what it helps us achieve it, but it's saying I got to this number is one thing, but what it means to us is way more important.
Yeah, I think to conclude, basically, if you chase the numbers, you're going to get lost.
Yeah.
But I asked my accountant, I asked my CFO, I said, "Am I stupid buying this?" And they both said,
"Oh,
I think you should buy it, because you need to keep yourself on the hamster wheel. You need to get some enjoyment. You need to see fruits of your labor, and you need to keep pushing." So I thought, right, well, if my accountant and my CFO are saying do it, then I'm doing it.
That's not bad. Yeah, if your accountants say that, then it's got to be right. Well, Kieran, it's been delightful talking to you today, and I really thank you for your time. And for anyone that's watching who would like to get in touch with you or Senior Stairlifts, what would be the best way to do that?
Well, if anyone wants to contact me for just a coffee or jumping on a podcast or anything like that, LinkedIn is the only place I'm on social media at this current time. But obviously, Senior Stairlifts is quite easy. It's quite present on Google. My team would be glad to help anyone who needs looking after.
Brilliant. Well, again, thanks so much for your time today.
It's been a pleasure.